It's been several days since I've seen Robert Eggers' remake of Nosferatu, and I have to say, it has sunk its bony claws into me, and I feel like I need to talk about it, so let's do that. My name is Marcos. I'm a tattoo artist, I'm a painter, I enjoy movies sometimes, and this is my first YouTube video, so that's a new thing. This is going to be awkward, it's going to be stupid, so forgive me for all the mistakes I make. So for this painting, I'll be using a very limited color palette of Pines Gray, I think some people pronounce it. Like I said, not smart. Alizarin Crimson and Titanium White. I really love working with limited color palettes because it really simplifies the decision-making process, and it really helps when trying to make a painting really quickly. I finished this one in about an hour and a half, and you'll see the process as it goes through. And plus, Payne's Gray and Alizarin Crimson feels very gothic, and I think it's suitable for this painting that we are making today. This would usually be part of the review where people would go through the history of the original Nosferatu and bring you up to speed of what is happening now and the vampire lore of the canon of the story of the Dracula. But let's be honest, this is not the first Nosferatu review or discussion that you've seen, and I'm sure at this point you've heard plenty about the original 1922 film. I'll just say this. If you haven't seen the original film by F.W. Murnau, starring Max Schreck, it's awesome. Like, actually, it holds up super well. It moves fairly quickly for a movie that is over 100 years old, and visually, it is really awesome. So I think it's really worth looking at. A lot of striking imagery that, for a film that had been made 102 years ago, is like really memorable. I'm a really old guy though, so I don't really know what's going to appeal to younger, brain-rotted individuals. A movie that I see that feels like it is quickly paced may be the slowest thing ever to younger audiences. So stop me if you've heard this story before. A young up-and-comer in the world of real estate is given a lucrative assignment. The catch? He has to leave the comforts of his home, whether it's Germany or London, and journey deep into the Carpathian wilderness of Transylvania. Really tried strongly not to roll my R when I said Transylvania. Transylvania. I tried it. Transylvania. Because it sounds stupid. I don't really want to be that kind of person in video. We'll cut this out. Where he meets the eccentric aristocrat Count Dracula, or in this case, Count Orlok. Yes, like the original, the new Nosferatu is an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'll admit, I haven't read Dracula, and that's a big blind spot for me as a horror fan and a big reader. It's just something that I've never gotten around to.
I haven't read Frankenstein either.
Anyway, I can't speak to how closely the film sticks to the novel, but if you've seen other Dracula adaptations, the story will feel very familiar to you. And for me, the familiarity is one of the film's greatest strengths. I went in expecting a radical departure from the classic tale. Maybe a subversion of expectations that has been a trend in movies in the last few years. In a twist, my expectations were subverted by the fact that they weren't subverted. What we get here feels like a greatest hits collection of Dracula lore. I especially appreciate the focus on Ellen's relationship with Count Orlok, Ellen being the kind of Mina Harker of this version of Nosferatu Dracula. Their grotesque romance is as horrifying as it is alluring, and kind of perfectly illustrates how vile and powerful Count Orlok is, and how far he'll go to get what he wants. Both Lily Rose Depp and Bill Skarsgård nail their performances. They don't really spend a ton of screen time together, but it builds up to their confrontation, and you really feel the tension that has brought us to that point. In highlighting Depp's performance, it's raw and expressive, and it's like really visceral and like shocking to see the position she puts herself into. It's very interesting. I've only ever seen her in Kevin Smith's Yoga Hosers, which is a truly horrible, awful, miserable movie that I think literally everyone should see because it is something else. Like, it is kind of unbelievable how bad it is, and that alone makes it worth watching. And having seen her in Yoga Hosers, I didn't have much expectations of her doing a very good job, and she completely blew it all away, proving that it's really more Kevin Smith's fault than hers. Most depictions of Dracula lean heavily into the character's charm, a trait that we could credit to Bela Lugosi in the classic 1931 film. The classic image of the beguiling monster with dark intentions fits well within the gothic setting. Recently, though, there's been a trend towards a more animalistic portrayal of vampires, and even Dracula itself. Take 2023's thoroughly mediocre The Last Voyage of the Demeter as an example, where the Count is reduced to a murderous creature, shedding any pretense of elegance. Eggers and Skarsgård take the character in a different direction, creating a Dracula that perverts the romantic charm of the classic portrayals. Their Count Orlok is an obsessed, feral creature who clings to the illusion of aristocracy. The romance is still there, but it is perverted into something deeply sinister. I've seen people say that Bill Skarsgård is unrecognizable as Orlok, and they were not exaggerating. Bill Skarsgård's a really handsome guy, but he has these big, distinct puppy dog eyes that are even present when he's playing Pennywise in It, that are completely unmistakable. You can kind of tell them anywhere. But as Orlok, like his presence completely transforms. There's like no trace to his usual look or even his voice. His voice is like booming, thickly accented, feels like it is coming from every direction while you're in the theater. There's a very oppressive feel to it. It's really cool. I've even seen conspiracy theories online insisting that he is not Orlok at all and it's a different actor. If that's not an ultimate endorsement of your acting ability, I don't know what is. And that's why I'm painting him today. I think Orlok's look in this movie is incredible. And I have to say, I love the mustache. And I will not entertain a single negative comment about it. You are stupid if you don't like it. He looks like he is a bass player from a 70s hard rock band, and it rules. As with Robert Eggers' other films, Nosferatu is very visually interesting. It's easy to get swept up into the set design and the world that he's built in this movie. You can really see the production value in it all. It really feels of the era, of the period. It seems so accurate to the tone of Dracula. I particularly like when Thomas Hutter, the Jonathan Harker character, goes to the castle for the first time. There's a lot of cool stuff happens that builds up to it. But just the scene where he walks up to the gate of the castle, you see Count Orlok in the background. You don't see his face at this stage, but you see his form, and he motions Thomas to come into the castle. And for a long time, you kind of half see him, half not, and it builds and builds and builds until you finally see the true form of Count Orlok. And it's just, as I said before, an oppressive feeling. It just stifles. He's like on top of you. His voice is so loud. He's like wheezing and sputtering and just sounds disgusting. Like the sound design is so crazy in this movie. Like I said, he just seems like he's on top of you. And all the other actors in this film are good too. There's no performance that stands out as bad. There's like no Keanu Reeves as Jonathan Harker. There's no performance that sticks out that seems out of place. Like everything is very good. I also want to say that I'm not like a great judge of acting. It's not an art form I completely understand. When something stands out as bad, it's pretty easy to pick out, but good acting is like a wide range for me. I love really big, broad performances. Like I love Nicolas Cage. I love people that really go for it and go crazy. So if you see a lot of those performances and those kind of things turn you off, there may be some of that in here that would turn you off. But for me, I kind of love that. I love the big drama. I love the heightened energy. It's like, if you're going to make a movie, this is fiction. It doesn't have to emulate reality. It doesn't have to have the most toned down performances. You could just go for it and elevate something. That is like the joy of art to me. It doesn't have to be according to everybody's rules every single time. Rules are good. They kind of put you in a nice pocket to kind of judge yourself to other performers and other artists. But to really transcend, you sometimes have to break out from that, and you sometimes have to go really big. You have to swing for the fences. So I'm a person who appreciates those kind of performances. In closing, as a big fan of the genre, Robert Eggers has added a new masterpiece to the canon of Gothic horror. Nosferatu is a grand, grim vision of a classic story that is backed with really good acting and smart changes to the familiar story. This is my favorite movie of 2024, and perhaps my favorite Dracula adaptation. It actually would be fun to go through all of them. I do watch a lot of them pretty frequently, honestly. Like I said, I really love gothic horror. I really like Dracula and vampires, so this is like my wheelhouse. I've thought back and forth on whether I should be rating these movies. Should I just let my words speak for themselves? I did type this script up, but I also go off the cuff a lot too, kind of a mixture of scripting and then just off the top of my head, kind of create a good flow here. I decided to kind of go with a simple grading system just so that if I do continue to make videos, there's something that you can compare my ratings to, I guess. Not a big deal. I'm not going to stress out about it too much. With that, Nosferatu 2024 gets a platinum grade, which would be the highest ranking in my admittedly very loose grading system. And here is the finished painting of Count Orlok. I'd like to thank you for watching my very first YouTube video. Please like and subscribe if you care to. Share it if you can. I'd really like to hear feedback since this is the first time I've done something like this. I'd like to hear what you thought about Nosferatu 2024 or the previous films. I didn't even talk about the 1979 movie, which I also enjoy quite a lot. What other movies do you think I should cover? What other movies scenes do you think I should paint? What could I do to improve? What questions am I going to ask next? What?